Hi guys, Irina here and welcome back to my channel where I review everything tech. In today's video, let's talk about these two iPhone models, the iPhone 11 and the iPhone 12. I'll share my experience with these phones and talk about all the differences and nuances when it comes to using these phones, and I think this video will be helpful for those of you who are on the fence at the moment and trying to decide which phone to get. When I pick up these phones, I can say right away that the iPhone 12 feels lighter, and speaking of the overall designs of these phones, yes, the iPhone 12 has this new design with squared off edges and absolutely flat display, while the iPhone 11 has a more traditional body, and I would say it's pretty much identical to the iPhone XR. And if you're a big fan of this new iPhone 12 design, the choice is probably a little bit easier for you, but let's go deeper and talk about the main differences between these phones. When it comes to size and proportions, the iPhone 12 is noticeably slimmer and hence much easier to hold in one hand, but at the same time, these phones have the same display size. So the iPhone 12 is more ergonomic, which I think is a huge advantage, but let's talk more about the displays of these phones. So we have a 6.1-inch LCD display on the iPhone 11 and a 6.1-inch OLED display on the iPhone 12. Yes, the OLED display of the iPhone 12 is more advanced and it has some visual differences when compared to the iPhone 11, which I'll talk about in a minute. However, I still think the display on the iPhone 11 is pretty bright for an LCD display. It's actually brighter than some of the OLED displays I've had a chance to play with. So, I think you should keep in mind some actual visual differences between these displays before you make your decision, so let's compare them side by side in the real world. And first of all, I want to talk about the brightness of these phones. And yes, the OLED display on the iPhone 12 is noticeably brighter, and usually cameras can never show this difference as well as our eyes could see that, but I think it's still pretty obvious. And when it comes to using these phones outdoors, there is no surprise that the viewing experience is much better on the iPhone 12. Now let's see how these displays perform when looking at them from an angle, and once again you can see that the iPhone 11's display looks dimmer when compared to the iPhone 12, and this is another advantage of the OLED display on the iPhone 12. And finally, I want to talk about the difference in colors, and the first thing you need to know is that the colors look more saturated and vivid on the OLED display of the iPhone 12 when compared to the LCD display on the iPhone 11. And another thing worth mentioning is that the colors on the display of the iPhone 12 always look warmer. So the whites look slightly yellowish on the display of the iPhone 12, especially when compared to the iPhone 11. And if we go to the display settings, the True Tone is enabled at the moment on both of these phones. And if I disable the True Tone, you can see that right away the white colors start looking bluish, and overall the colors get cold looking on both of these displays. However, whether the True Tone is enabled or not, the colors on the iPhone 12 will always look warmer than on the iPhone 11. We get a higher pixel density on the iPhone 12, and I would say this difference is quite noticeable to the naked eye. You can see that the text looks sharper on the display of the iPhone 12, and also when it comes to some pictures and app icons, the edges look more rough on the display of the iPhone 11. So, I think these were the main differences between these two displays, and let's face it, the OLED display on the iPhone 12 has many advantages. However, as I previously mentioned, the display on the iPhone 11 is really bright for an LCD display. The colors still look good on it, and I don't think you'll be disappointed, guys. I want to thank Anker for sponsoring today's video, and I'm really excited to show you guys their new products. These are Powerline 3 Flow USB-C to Lightning cables, and once you've held this cable in your hand, I promise you guys, you'll never want to go back to your regular cables. My favorite thing about them is that they're surprisingly soft and flexible, and most importantly, these are really hard to tangle. You can bend or twist them, trust me, they'll be alright. Also, these cables come with a strap, which is really convenient, so you could neatly tie them up. They come in a variety of really dope colors. I got one in mint green, which is really cool if you're tired of basic colors. And I got another one in cloud white, which is perfect if you prefer a more classic color. And also, you can choose between two length options, 3 feet just like this one, or 6 feet if you need a longer cable. When it comes to aesthetics, I have to admit, these cables look really fancy. I like this metal finish around the connectors. This attention to detail definitely adds to the overall feel and quality of the product. Anker claims that these cables are super strong and have a 25,000 band lifespan, which seems like more than enough. Powerline 3 Flow is officially certified to work with all Apple Lightning devices and offers you the highest possible performance and safe charging. I'll put all the links in the description, feel free to check them out. Back to the video, and one of the things I've noticed about the iPhone 12 is that if you prefer a zoomed view in the display settings, just like I do, you will notice that your YouTube videos look weird when they're not in a full screen mode, so they look cut off like this. And honestly, I hate it. It never happens on the iPhone 11, and the only thing you can do is to set the standard view instead of the zoomed view on the iPhone 12. And while I don't think it's a big deal, it still leaves me kinda disappointed. And another difference while these phones are set to zoomed view is that the icons look noticeably bigger on the iPhone 12 than on the iPhone 11. And if you're someone like me who hates straining their eyes with this default super small font and small icons, I think you'll like it. Now let's talk about the batteries of these phones. We have 3,110 mAh on the iPhone 11 and 2,815 mAh on the iPhone 12. And while the iPhone 11 has a slightly bigger battery, I would say from my experience the iPhone 12 is better when it comes to battery life. A few months ago I did a battery drain test, which didn't go live on my channel due to my busy schedule, but I'll show you the results in this video. And despite the fact that the iPhone 12 has a smaller battery, it actually showed a much better result by lasting 8 hours and 20 minutes, while the iPhone 11 died after 5 hours and 12 minutes. It's important to note that both of these phones had 100% capacity when it comes to battery health. And of course, we cannot consider any battery drain test as a super accurate and scientific test, but it was interesting to see how these phones compared when put in similar real-world conditions. Both of these iPhones support wireless charging, which means you can use the MagSafe charger with the iPhone 12 as well as the iPhone 11. And despite the fact that on the Apple's website we have a blank in the MagSafe compatibility section, the MagSafe charger works absolutely fine with the iPhone 11 as well. The only difference is that the MagSafe charger will strongly latch to the iPhone 12, since this phone has a magnet coil inside of it, whereas in the case of the iPhone 11, you just put your phone on the MagSafe like on any other wireless charger. But keep in mind that the iPhone 11 is not compatible with MagSafe accessories such as wallets. Next, let's talk about the speakers of these phones, and if we take a look at the bottom speakers, it looks like the iPhone 11 has a bigger speaker setup here, and you could think that the sound on the iPhone 11 could be more powerful, but don't be tricked by the amount of speaker holes, since these holes on the left are not speakers and only those on the right side are the actual speakers. And when it comes to how loud the sound is on the iPhone 11 and the iPhone 12, I would say they're pretty much equal. Of course, you could get even louder speakers on, say, the iPhone 12 Pro Max, but I think the sound is still pretty decent on these iPhones. Moving on to the cameras of these phones, we have dual 12-megapixel cameras on the iPhone 11 as well as on the iPhone 12, and yes, both of these phones have the ultra-wide lenses. Of course, the iPhone 12 has some new features that the iPhone 11 doesn't have, and I would say most of them are night mode related, since we get the night mode on the ultra-wide camera, the night mode on the selfie camera, and you could also shoot night mode time lapses on the iPhone 12. Also, the iPhone 12 supports the HDR video recording with Dolby Vision, but I don't want to be repetitive and make this video too long, since I already have a very comprehensive camera comparison video on my channel where I talk about all the differences between these cameras, so check out this video to see it for yourself. Despite the fact that we have a more advanced A14 chip on the iPhone 12, I'll be honest with you guys, I don't think you will notice any dramatic difference since the gaming experience is seamless on both of these iPhones, not to mention simpler tasks like browsing, navigation, and apps like Instagram or YouTube. The only thing that I've noticed is that the apps are downloaded a little bit faster on the iPhone 12, so there's no doubt that the new A14 chip is faster, but the previous A13 chip can still hold its own, and I've never had any complaints here. Speaking of some improvements on the iPhone 12, this phone is better when it comes to water resistance. It can handle the depth of up to 6 meters versus 2 meters on the iPhone 11. And I don't think this is one of the main things we usually consider when we're choosing our next phone model, but I have to admit it actually sounds like a big step up. And another thing I haven't yet mentioned is 5G on the iPhone 12. So basically you can have a chance of getting faster internet speed. So I live in New York City, and from my experience sometimes I get slightly faster speeds with 5G, but they're not mind-blowing yet. So we'll see how it will all change in a few years. I think these were all the differences and things I've noticed about the iPhone 12 and the iPhone 11 while using these phones. I hope this video was helpful for you guys. If so, give me a thumbs up. Really curious to know what you think about these two phones and which one you would prefer. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next video.